Okay, next up we'll have candidates from County Council Districts 2, Scott McDonough and Dean McQueen. Welcome, Scott. We're glad to have you. Scott will be up here, so we will just ask you the questions in order and give you the time to answer them. First question, please introduce yourself and state the key points of your campaign. 1 minute.
Well, my name is Scott McDonough, obviously. I've grown up in this county and currently live in Cedar Grove. Have 6 children that attend the Mount Carmel School, so I'm very invested in not just what happens now, but what happens in the future for them. Key points of my campaign for county council have always been transparency, making the best use of the resources that we have. My background has been in law, lean manufacturing, and human resources, all which come to play, and it all comes back to how we make the most out of what we have to work with.
Thank you. What experience do you have that qualifies you for this position?
Once again, I have a background in law, I have a law degree, and after spending about 10 years in the legal field was when I first got involved in the politics of Franklin County, ran for the commissioner's spot, and served 4 years as a commissioner, and that really changed my focus on what I was wanting to do. From there I moved into the manufacturing field because I'd gotten involved in redevelopment, economic development, got to know a lot of the local manufacturers, and really developed an interest in the whole lean manufacturing philosophy, which at the end of the day, even though they add a bunch of fancy terminology to it, it comes back to common sense. It's, what can you, once again, how do you get the most out of, how do you get the most out of your resources with the least amount of effort? And that comes into play in county council. We're constantly, the commissioners covered our conversation covered the problem very well. There's plenty of issues that need to be addressed, and there's limited resources to go around. And that's one of the things that makes me qualified, is that's what I deal with in the private sector on a regular basis.
And almost as a follow-up to that question then, what is the single greatest challenge that Franklin County faces, and how would you address it?
I think initially I would want to say just the limited financial resources, but I would say that the biggest issue we face is harmony. It's easy when resources are limited to sit around and point fingers about who's using the resources better or worse. Try to get people to actually sit down, respect each other, whether you agree or disagree with the person sitting across from you, is critical for us moving forward.
How do you plan to involve residents from your district?
The way I involve people is I've always been an open book. People can have my phone number. You can get on Facebook if you want to scroll through the last 10, 12 years of my life. I've always been willing to sit down with whoever wants to talk, whether they agreed or disagreed with me, whether I knew they were happy with the last decision I made or furious with the last decision I made. I've always been willing to sit down and have that common sense conversation. And that's what I intend to continue doing. So if anyone does want to talk or needs to know how to get a hold of me, feel free. Or like I said, if you're on Facebook, you can look up Scott Matthew McDonough and stalk me all you want.
Do you feel there's waste in the council budget? And if so, how would you address it?
I would say waste is very subjective. This goes back to pointing fingers. I can pick a department and I can say, here's a way I think this department should be using the money that they have made available to them. I think a lot of times the council members are asked to get involved in the way departments are managed versus the fact that our job is to say, here's how much money we have to work with. And then, once again, when the appropriations come before us, that's where we have the opportunity to say, no, we're not going to give you that additional appropriation, or yes, based on how we feel they've managed those resources. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we have to hold the reins on those additional appropriations if we feel like it's been wasted.
And in closing, take a minute to share with constituents anything else that you would like to address.
No, I would just say that my basic philosophy is, when I first started campaigning, even when I was running for commissioner, people always ask, what are you going to do for us? Everybody's got their checklist of what they want to see, council or one government department or another provide for them. And I always have to remind people, I said, you don't ask me what the government's going to do for you, because we're not going to do anything for you unless we have either already reached into your pocket, or we plan on doing it in the future. So ask yourself what you're really willing to pay for before you ask, what are we going to do for you? And that comes into play all across all the issues we have in council, whether you call it waste or, the level of services and quality of services that we provide. You have to ask yourself, what are you willing to pay for it? And then engaging, this kind of goes back to engaging the community. Those are the conversations I have all the time with people is, okay, why aren't we spending more money on this? Especially the road issues. The road issues are huge, but the question is, are we willing to pay for what it's going to take to upgrade all those roads? Just one thing I would like to see, I work with state reps on, if they could create a way for us to have local referendums to fund some of these different projects that are concerned to local constituents, that'd be a lot easier way to put the funding in place that's based on what the majority of the people want, versus having to make some of those calls the way we have it right now.
Thank you. That concludes the questions. You may be seated.